When you retire, where should you pull money from? First, second, third? That's a question I get asked all the time. So in today's video, I want to talk about things that you should think about in order to make the best decision for your own situation on where you should pull money from first, second, third. You've got to start by looking at your income needs. How much money are you going to need to pull from your accounts? This would be whatever amount of cash flow you're needing to cover that is not covered by Social Security or pension or rental income. It's not covered by other sources. So you're going to have to take this from your accounts. Then you want to think about what types of accounts do you have? How much money is in, say, tax-deferred accounts? This would be IRAs or 401ks. When you pull money from that type of an account, you're going to pay ordinary income tax on that distribution. How much money do you have in taxable accounts? And how is that invested? In your taxable accounts, you'll have some money that is fully tax paid, like money in a savings account. But then you could also have money that's invested that has a tax consequence if you want to pull it out, like money that's invested in a mutual fund that you've owned for 20 plus years that has a lot of gain in it. So you've got to know how that money is invested and what kind of tax consequence you would have to access that money. Then how much do you have in tax-free type of accounts like your health savings account or your Roth IRA? Those are accounts that you can pull money from without any tax consequence if you're following all of the rules. One of the things that makes it difficult is knowing, well, should I just use up my taxable account first? That's what a lot of people think they should do, and then switch over to my tax-deferred account when I have to do that. And that is not the most optimal way. So I want to talk about how you decide how much of each account to use from year to year. Start by looking at your tax bracket, not only this year, but consider what it's going to be when you retire, if you haven't retired yet, when you turn on Social Security, when both you and your spouse have turned on Social Security, when you have to start taking required minimum distributions, and when both you and your spouse are taking required minimum distributions. Each of these different points in time could have a different tax bracket. And you want to know what those are going to be so that you can strategically plan to navigate those changes over your retirement. Also think about your kids' tax brackets. If you're leaving whatever you don't spend to children, then you want to know what their tax bracket is. Are they in a high tax bracket? Are they in a low tax bracket? And what might their tax bracket be when they inherit whatever it is that you have left over? By knowing that, then you can navigate minimizing the total tax cost between what you have to pay in taxes and what they are going to have to pay in taxes. And that is very important to some of my clients, to minimize that total tax cost over all of those time frames. So once you know that, then you can, from year to year, begin to carry out your plan to minimize your lifetime taxes. You want to first use money that you're going to pay tax on anyways. You've got dividends or interest, and you're going to have to report those as taxable income. You could use that first, because you're going to pay tax on that no matter what. Then think about how much room do you have in the current tax bracket that you're in that you could use to either take some money out of your IRAs to spend, or take some money out of your IRAs to move to your Roth as a Roth conversion and build more of that tax-free bucket for later, or a combination of those. For some people, a combination of those makes a lot of sense. Once you've filled up the current bracket that you're in, if you still need additional income, then you want to begin to think strategically about how could you do that without moving into the next tax bracket. If you have health savings account that you can reimburse yourself for medical expenses, that would be tax-free. If you would just be a little bit over that next bracket, you might want to dip into that Roth IRA to keep yourself at the current bracket. Now, a lot will depend on what your current bracket is, what the next bracket is, how much additional income you need, your legacy goals, how all of those things play into the big picture. But one of the reasons to have that Roth IRA is to allow yourself to manage your tax bracket from year to year. And that is a way to keep yourself from moving into the next tax bracket, but especially from moving into the next IRMA bracket. Once you put that plan together for this year, then you're going to have to do it again next year. Each year's tax picture is a little bit different. So each year you would have to look at this, revisit all of the things that I just talked about, and determine for this new year, where should you pull money from first, second, and third. But by doing this, you can make sure that you're keeping yourself in the lowest tax bracket possible over your lifetime, minimizing your tax cost, and then improving the tax cost of the amount that's going to be left to your kids. And with that, that should help you be on your best path in your retirement. And if you have questions or you need help with it, feel free to reach out to me.